Yeah. Anyway, thanks for listening to me. I suppose we better go back to where I started a bit too, so we can get to the why. We grew up on a dairy farm at Wauchope, run by my uncles and my dad and their father. So there was a crew of us growing up on the farm. I'm very lucky, great childhood. Time I got into, I think, sort of year 11 and 12 at school, I had a bit of a, I liked geography and sort of thought I might have been a bit of an environmentalist and that sort of thing maybe, I don't know. I went to uni and started studying natural resources. I didn't really know if I wanted to go to uni or whatever. I'd just seen a bloke playing footy in Armidale and I thought, yeah, I'll go and do that. I'll go to uni, landed in a college and started doing natural resources. I quite liked it and that, and then old mate said I had to go bird watching on the weekends. And I said, well, I want to play footy. And he said, no, well, you're here to, go to uni and all that sort of stuff. And I said, well, I'm going to play footy. I'm not going to go bird watching. So I changed to rural science then. So I changed over to I think they call it agriculture science now, but back then it was called rural science. And I just quite enjoyed it. And I realised I'd missed the farm. Like I love the farm. I worked on the farm a lot in the holidays and that sort of thing, milking the cows, and my dad had a turf business. And so we did that, and I went to uni and learned about the chemical and the spraying and all that, and I thought I knew all this stuff. I went back and I put more urea on, more phosphorus onto the farm. I think there was a lecture on organic farming, maybe one. I wouldn't have went to it. And, so I'm not that way inclined at all. I was thought big wheat crops and all that and chemical was the way to go. And then in 2000 we had the deregulation of the dairy industry. We hadn't taken over, we'd bought the family farm with my parents. My dad had bought his brothers out and father, and so we went in a lot of debt. It was very risky, and I did the figures on what our new milk price is going to be, and I was just going, well, we're just not going to survive this. And then the local factory, some people came up from Sydney and just said, we're thinking about organic farming, you're interested in it? And I was like, oh, you're kidding, aren't you? Like, really? And 6 months later, we were organic farmers. So literally, like on the last day of the financial year, I put all the potash out and urea and everything that was in the sheds. And the next day, we were organic farmers. And it was like my dad, I think back, he was my age now. That must have been absolutely terrifying. So I would have been mid-20s, no idea what we're doing. I started reading a few books and that sort of thing. And and then luckily my wife worked for Landcare, so she was a bit green and that. And then she said, there's a course running in Wingham, holistic management, right? And now I'm glad that Bill's here, because Bill Archibald, when I went to his farm, it just, I was doing all the stuff, the sheets and all that, the holistic management stuff, and I liked it. But when I seen his farm, I just went, bang. We can do this. We're in a drought then. It was pretty bad, eh? It was in 2001, I think. And I went to his farm and he had beautiful looking cattle and he had heaps of grass and no one else did, and he was using these licks, copper sulphate, really? And he had these portable water troughs in this little shed and that. And I was like, this is great. So we went back to the farm and said, this is what we're going to do. We're not going to graze that paddock over there, Dad. We're going to wait. What would you do that for? And it's created a lot of tension and that sort of thing with him, but he stuck with it. And that's probably rambling. I could talk about that stuff for half an hour easy, about the fights and what happened and that. But and it was you just and like why, it's like it was more what if, like, and how can you farm without drenches and vaccinating, and how are you going to farm without urea, and like in a dairy farm, how are you going to do this? Like, it just can't be done, like all these antibiotics. Like, what about mastitis, and what about the vet coming all the time and all that sort of stuff? And but anyway, we did holistic management, and that was a start that, you know, got me on to reading different books and meeting different people, some great people like Bill, and like he talked to me on the phone and always gave me time. And there's a why, is the people I met were great people, and I wanted to be like them, and I wanted to farm like them. That's why I kept doing it, because I could see that, like, we could do it. It could be done. I had to stop reading the land newspaper and the Australian Dairy magazine and all that stuff. And like, why would I read it? Like, now I read it sometimes and it's like funny. Like, almost, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, so anyway, so that, let's just have a look at the farm now. Can we play? You know, 20 years ago we made the decision to go organic. Just little by little you start seeing these changes until you get to a point where you just can't stop looking at it. It helps you get out of bed early in the morning, that's for sure. You know, I was just so fortunate to have a father who was willing to take this organic journey. Like, he really took a punt on it, and he was like prepared to let me, at a fairly young age, I was only in my mid-20s, take over the farm basically and make the decisions towards it. It must have been frightening.
It gives me a lot of satisfaction to be able to look at the farm, and it's always a pleasure to look out there. There's always good things that you can see there. Chris has done a wonderful job with the pastures and with the farm, the way he does it. He's the guru on farming.
It's been a really tough, dry this season, and we've just had a little bit of rain, and we've just had this wonderful response. As you can see, the cows are just loving it, and we're still growing feed like this without any artificial fertilisers, all grown naturally from healthy soil. That's why the plants look so rich and healthy, because of all this worm activity, and it never used to be like that. The Norco organic milk we produce is as good as it gets. Not only is it going to taste really good, it's going to be real good for you. The mulch that comes into the farm we lay out for bedding for the animals, so it's comfortable for them to lay on. It keeps them clean. It's cool in summer, it's warm in winter for them. We clean that out and we compost it over about a 4-month period, and then we add it to the soils then, and that's what's feeding the worms. So the better the compost we put out, the better the farm becomes. It just goes in a big cycle like that. And that's the basis of our farm, to look after the worms and the life in the soil, and that'll look after us, eh?
Yeah, and they're good fish bait.
Yeah, I guess, you know, as a mother, you always have great faith in your son, don't you? To me, nature is so strong, and if you can work with it, it's going to double that strength. You're only the custodians of the land, and we have a great opportunity to use this land to produce food for other people. And I think that's a huge responsibility, is to have good quality food that's come from good quality sustainable practices. It's been a great journey.
When a customer buys a bottle of Norco organic milk, they're getting the best milk in Australia. That's what we think anyway. They're getting a top quality product, farmed with love and satisfaction.
With a passion.
Yeah, with a passion, yeah, with a passion.
We'll be stronger if we are together now.
I guess that's obviously, like, there's got a bit of a Norco theme and that in it. Very hard doing days like that when you're organic farming, because they don't want to hurt the brand. Like, so there's nothing really, like, you can't say organic farming's just, like, great and all that sort of thing, you know what I mean? Like, because they don't want to hurt the other brand, the normal milk. So it's a bit of a funny one, but anyway, my son's doing his own milk now, so it's been very exciting. I'll get to that at the end. So that's my family that's on the farm. It's my mum and dad, my two sons, Lockie and Jimmy, and the little fella there. We're talking about the fishing, Billy. It was a few years ago. Lockie, the oldest boy, he's at uni. He's in 4th year. He plays the saxophone, and he's like at the Conservatorium of Music. And like we got no music in us or nothing. And when he said I want to play an instrument, I think, you know, if I hadn't been organic farming and knowing that like I can change so much and things can happen, I probably would have said, no, you're stupid, you know, to get a cricket bat and a football and that sort of thing, you know what I mean? But he's a wonderful kid and he works full time at uni. We don't give him a dime. He's in Sydney. He's full-time uni. He's got a full-time job. He plays in bands. He's just super proud of him and that. And then Jimmy, the middle son there, is 19 now. He left school at 18 and he come in when he was doing his HSC. One night, was watching the footy, having a beer and whatnot, and he come and he goes, "Hey, farmer." They call me farmer because I love farming, so everyone just calls me farmer. He said, "Hey, farmer, you got that thing at Huntington. There's another farm we had. Like I set up a little milk factory on it about 5 years ago, but never got to getting it off the ground with Safe Food and Council and all that sort of stuff and other things, and sort of lost a bit of interest." And I said, "Yeah, it's still there." He goes, It's a milk factory, isn't it?" And that he goes, I don't want to go to uni or nothing. I want to have my own business. I want to have a go at that." And I said, "Yeah, righto. No worries, let's do it." And like I thought, in a couple of weeks' time, he'll forget about it, you know what I mean? But anyway, yeah, he finished the HSC, he did really well in it, got in the 90s, did hardly any study. Like, he's a real bright kid, and he's, I'll talk about that later, he's doing that. And Billy, the little fella, the same thing. It teaches you to like think outside the box. He hated school. The other two boys loved it. He hated it. And he should be in year 9 now, but he's on the farm. He made first term of year 8. And I said, "I'm not going to see another principal again." I said, "Dan, I'm not changing schools or going to see one more principal or one more program or going to Headspace or whatever it is and find out what's wrong with me, boy." I said, "I'm bloody sick of it. He's coming. We'll homeschool him and he can work on the farm if he wants and just chill out." And wow, it's just like a weight off your shoulders. Like, it's been unbelievable. He's cracking on the farm. He's doing a wonderful job. He does a bit of schoolwork now and then, but he's doing a fantastic job on the farm. We just love having him around. Like, I'm thinking, why would I send him to school? I miss him too much. So, how long is it? 10 minutes? Jesus, I haven't even started. Anyway, then I've got my mum and dad there, and they're still involved in the farm. And people like say, "Oh, you know, you've got to move them on and all that sort of stuff." Well, why would you move all that, you know, that knowledge and all that sort of, and they're pretty passionate about it and that now. Like this morning, like I'm thinking, "Oh, what about this why thing? Why do I do what I do?" Well, I had Dad come over because he knew I was coming here and he helped me milk and everything. And Billy came over, he was playing golf at 11 o'clock, but he still come over and made sure he fed all the cows properly and that, because I don't do a good enough job. I don't make the milk warm enough, and I don't tip the water out and keep it fresh and all that sort of stuff. That's why we do what we do, I guess. It's like for that reason, you know. And anyway, that's them. So I'll click through here quick. That's an initial, like one of the initial things we did that was different. I was put mulch or sawdust on the cow yard because I was at an Elaine Ingham thing and Soil Food Lab. And I was like, we're buying all this chook manure to make compost out of, and like, it's just chook standing on sawdust in a shed, you know what I mean? We got all these cows standing in the yard, and we spend an hour and a half a day with this big pressure hose hosing the bloody shit off the yard into some stinking pond, which was best practice at the time. We spent all this money on concrete and pumps and all this. And I was thinking, oh, no one ever bloody unblocks a pump. It's always someone else's job to do, unblock the pipe, all the poop in the end of it and that. It was just a shocking system, and it's still going today. So I said, I'm going to do what the chooks do. I'm going to put sawdust on the yard, and everyone said it wouldn't work and it'd smell and there'd be flies, and it was total opposite. It absorbed all the nutrient. You think of all the urine getting pissed on the concrete and volatilising. It's getting peed on the sawdust or hay, it's absorbing. You get a carbon and nitrogen ratio, bacteria and fungi. They talked about all that stuff at that conference. I was like biggest eyes ever. I was like, how good's this? And then we just went into the compost venture, and it worked. Our pastures improved. Then I've got to go quick here. Then I guess we sort of looked, we're growing multi-species crops and that sort of thing, and that was working. Then we went into a chook venture with a bloke doing pasture-raised eggs, or full organic eggs. That's hard work. There's not a lot in it, but it's good, because it's taught us a little about retail and shops and ourselves. And my wife does it. She does a great job, selling the eggs. And we have egg packers come in, ladies come in or whoever, and they become friends. And that's where you creating this community and that sort of thing. You know what I mean? And then we're doing the pigs and the beef, selling that direct from from our shop. There's a compost. There's a cows laying on the mulch. There's a fellow that works for me, Joe. He's in his 30s now. He's been working for me since he's 14. I wouldn't say working for us. He's been working with us. He's a tremendous fella. I just get emotional thinking about it. He's just the best bloke. And he does all the tractor driving, the compost and that. Doesn't say much, just gets on it. But sometimes he'll go, geez, that shit we're putting on the paddocks looks good, eh? And that'll be like the compost, He still thinks, it's just shit, you know what I mean? But I'll keep going. As he's spreading it on the paddocks. What's happening here? It's not working. It's going. Oh, got another video. Here we go. So here I'm planting winter species straight into a summer crop before the cows go in there. That's why I do it. Those moments like that are just better than winning the grand final. It's just amazing. You see the little spinner behind there? It's spinning it'll be like wheat and barley and oats and rye and different clovers, a bit of vetch and stuff like that. I think there's the biocasters in the back there as well, because we put that all over the seeds now. But that was planted in a paddock of just couch, in a low-lying area. No fertiliser or anything. It just had the biocast on it. It was an area we don't usually use. And it just blew me away what this multi-species cropping's doing, especially in summer in our area or on our farm. I thought compost and compost teas were the way to go on that, but they're important. But this grasses and multi-species stuff, it's just next level. I think that's just showing new seeds coming up in the soil there. That's after it was grazed. There's our chickens. You see how wet it is in the background, the mud. Just got to keep moving them, and we put mulch hay under them, under the sheds to keep the moisture up. Because in a situation when we're just getting rain on rain, if you keep moving them all the time, you just got a big area of mud. You know what I mean? Try and keep in the area for longer. I suppose it's a bit like when it's dry, when you're rotational grazing and that. There's the meat chickens. They've actually got feathers. Look at that. There's pigs. And those early days there, that's Billy driving the ute when he's about 8, I think. But that's how we started with mulch hay, little square bales. And if we did rounds, we pushed them out by hand ourselves. And then we had this bloke come do work experience from us. He's from Ireland, I think. And he said, get one of these hustler things that hustles them bales out. What are you blokes doing? You're idiots. And I looked it up and bought this thing called a hustler that hustles round bales out. It changed their life. So good. And that's just, I suppose, pictures of the kids when they were little and at different stages. So the picture on the bottom left I love the most, of the two boys when they were they've been 14 or 15 or something. So they're ripping in a big feed. See that we grew on the farm. like bacon and eggs and snags and that. They call the snags, the pork snags, they call them the eighth wonder of the world. They go and get some eighth wonders out of the freezer. And when they're at home, like they used to come home from school, they'd go and get like Scotch fillet out of the freezer and cook it for a snack. And things like that. And that's why we do, like, that's one of the big things, like why we do what we do. Like, seeing that is just, like, for me, I just love it. Like, Ian's going, that's $50, you got us. Oh, that's, you're right, we'll work it out. And that's like Jimmy, my son, who's doing the milk, when he was like 13 in the top corner there, he's off to his first day of work at an avocado farm in Comboyne. And it nearly killed him, eh? Like, but he loved it. Like, and they've got this like work ethic, like it's so good. Like, so they were going to the local produce store to work there in that bottom one. So that's Billy, the 14-year-old. He's doing some planting and just checking the seed there and that. And here's Jimmy with his milk. And the bottom right-hand corner is probably the best photo because that's my dad delivering the milk. Yeah? So like mum and dad are 75 and they go deliver milk and stuff. How good. You know what I mean? And there's Jimmy, he's like 18 there with his one of the first lots of milk. Now I just want to talk a little bit about the milk because we've had people that are lactose intolerant and that drinking that milk and it's fine. So he started with 7 cows, now he's up to about 30 I think. He's pretty much at capacity with this little dairy. That's where we sell their meat and that is their little farm shop there. So it's comments like that and people like saying they haven't been able to drink milk and now they can drink milk and they just love it in their coffee and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, why is that? This is the way it's growing. The food's growing, yeah, and the healthy soils and rotation. That's the grasses his cows are eating there. About 5 or 6 weeks ago. But it comes straight out of the cow and it goes straight in the pasteuriser. Variable speed pump, so the milk's not pumped hard, it's just gentle, pumped in there, and it goes in there about 38 degrees and he heats it straight up. Now you've got to start questioning like the dairy industry, like with this sort of stuff and energy. It's not to do with climate change or anything like that. It's just a basic use of energy. On our dairy farms, the tanker comes and picks the milk up at 4 degrees. They take it to a milk factory and heat it up to 80 degrees, 90 degrees, whatever it is. How much energy is that using? Yeah? And then what do we do then? We cool it back down to 3 degrees. More energy. Like so it can be pasteurised. Now when pasteurisation occurred, it was like a long time ago before we had stainless steel, acids, alkalis, a bloody third authority and all that sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? And refrigeration. Like he pasteurises his milk to a low temperature, like the minimum standard temperature. So it's proper. It's close to food again. So when I see his milk, and he doesn't homogenise it and all that, so it's low processed and it's from a healthy soil, so it's just like a proper good product for you to eat and drink, and that's why we do it. He's learnt that. All those kids have known since their lives is organic farming, and now he's taken it to another level. It's so good. I better be quiet. Sorry.
All right, we've got questions for Chris.
Every now and then, Chris, thanks for your presentation, that was great. Every now and then you hear stories about disease outbreaks in producers like Hunter Valley cheese, I think, down there had a problem for a while. Is that a problem with equipment or hygiene at the factory, or what? How does that work?
Oh yeah, it's a risk, big risk, I guess, stuff like that. But what I've learnt from the organic farming, if I worried all the time what might happen, I'd never got nothing done. So, well, it just keeps it clean. It's hard because like he's 18, like he never even cleaned his bedroom. He'd be wearing the same undies for 4 or 5 days. You know what I mean? Like he's the normal, he's like he's a loose dude, but when it comes to his like factory and that, he's like surprisingly really good. Like he runs his business. That's his business. He pays rent for the land, the cows, the machinery. He pays himself a little bit of wage. He's employing someone now. So he's got, I said, mate, you got to put toilet paper in the toilet. Butcher's paper won't do, mate. You know what I mean? I went in there one day, there's a big roll of butcher's paper in there. Yeah, think of. So he's got a, he's doing that. But that's always, it's I guess it's a worry, but fear runs farming, yeah? What if you get, an outbreak of this, an outbreak of that, and we've all got to go and put signs on our gates and no one's come in here and all that. It's just unbelievable. Like, it's almost funny.
You're in like a contained area, right? Doing things how you're doing.
Yeah.
I have the same problem. Why aren't my cows sick? My cows don't get sick. They might have trouble calving occasionally.
Yeah.
But full stop, that is the extent of our problem with the farm. Zero.
Yeah. Well, when we were conventional, we were pulling every calf out of those cows. 11 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock. Looking at them, had a special little paddock. It's not an issue anymore, no. And that's what I mean, I didn't have enough time to talk about that sort of stuff. I really wanted to talk about, the regeneration, I suppose, of like the next generation coming through and how exciting it is.
Chris, I see in your photos there, you've got the sawdust down for your cows. I live in a dairy area, and when you drive in, I took my wife in the other day, and she'd never been to a dairy, and she was absolutely horrified how much mud there was in these conventional dairies, how much it smelled, how dirty it was. Do you have mud and everything there, or does that compost actually sawdust? Look, I was in a butcher shop for years and we had sawdust on the floor. It was the best thing ever. Our authorities told us we couldn't have it. I love the idea of that, and I hate the idea of authorities telling us what we can and can't do to keep us safe. I think we're over-regulated the billio, but your dairy looked fantastic in them photographs.
Yeah, well, I get heaps of comments how it doesn't smell, and it doesn't. I was just talking to Hannah about it before. When I was a kid, I was that conscious of it, like the smell in the skin, like from the ammonia and that, Now it's not an issue. So sawdust is good, hay's even better. So we just put it on the yard to start with, and then we had like a bit of a shed, and then we started putting it in there. And the picture I was showing you with my employee Joe was meant to show like there's a couple foot of sawdust hay in there, and no smell. Like it just absorbs, and then it comes out. So all that nutrient coming off that farm is getting saved. So when we have weather like now, we might put out 20 bales of mulch hay. And that mulch hay is largely coming from our own farm. Because we're doing like holistic grazing, sometimes we get that much grass. We go, well, I can just lock that up and I'll just leave it and I'll cut it for mulch. And if it's reasonable, I might make hay out of it or silage. If it rains on it, I don't care. If it's got weeds in it, I don't care. More weeds, the better. And we use that mulch. That's like the cog of the farm. And see, I can keep the cows off the paddocks. So I can put them in there on that mulch and they stay clean. I feed them silage. All that nutrient from the silage that they're pissing and shitting out, staying in there to later go down the farm. Instead of, when I was a kid, we were on a hill, I used to just run down the farm green. The manure and that in dams. I remember like driving the tractor, like when I was in year 10 and 9, driving it down the hill to make tracks so the cows could walk down, you know what I mean? Because like they'd be just bogged up their guts in mud. We just put a little concrete in and use the mulch, keep them clean. And the biggest thing, is like the last few weeks is keeping the cows off the paddocks. And this gives us a tool to do that. Stop them pugging and that sort of thing. So when it finds up, we're ready to go. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, we use biochar too, and we don't use urea. So that's a big thing for smell. And we don't have many flies and that sort of thing either. It's very comfortable to milk the cows. Oh, we milk once a day as well. So we're only I forgot to say that, we're only walking them once a day. so their feet are pretty good and all that sort of thing. We give less milk, but I might use like 1.5 kilos of grain, like nothing. And, we're not, when it's really hot and when it's really wet, that's when the once-a-day milking just comes in on its own. But Bruce Ward told me about that 20 years ago when I did holistic management, like people doing it. I couldn't believe it. So they must be nuts. How can you do that? Milk has to come from a cow twice a day. It's just the way it is. But I tried it in 2007 and we had Friesian cows then and it wasn't so good. But yeah, sorry, that's a long answer to your question, but it's something we're really proud of, to tell you the truth, that our farm don't stink. So I could have school groups there and they'd have bloody little kindergarten kids coming in with their hands on their nose. You're kidding, doesn't smell? And they go, yeah, it does. I said, yeah, I mean a real farm, mate.
Do you get more money for your milk being organic?
Yeah, we do. We get a bit of a premium, but it's not enough, of course. Jimmy gets a premium, and he makes his price.
Yep.
He's the director.
Yep.
He's the director. He's the CEO. He's everything of his little company. He put his price up 50 cents a litre the other day for his home deliveries. He does home deliveries. Like he'll go to your house as long as you pay $35. Like he's got a minimum order, and he'll just like the old days. He puts the milk in a crate, glass bottles, picks the old crate of glass bottles up, takes it back, washes them up. It really resonates with people. They love it. And the milk just unbelievable. He says, the smaller label I put on it, the more money I save and the more people can see the milk. I don't have to advertise. There it is, right there. In that, it's real. There's no bullshit. And that's like, he sees it. He says all the time, the more things are advertised and the fancier the label, the more we stay away from, he says. It's right there and it's so real what he does. Yeah.
Am I on? Chris. Oh,
Yeah. Well, wait. Yeah.
I see where your cows, when I was at your field day a few weeks ago, the cows came down after we left. I think they didn't want to come and annoy us. Did they come on their own volition out of the feed bunker?
Yeah,
or
Yeah, they're not stuck in a feed bunker. They can go whenever they want. Unless like in the morning, sometimes I'll lock them up there because they haven't shifted the fence for the cows, so I don't want them to go, obviously.
Does one cow lead the charge? Have you got the
mostly,
leader?
yeah, mostly they're leaders in the group, yeah, and they come in and that. Like with the fencing and that now, like I've taken most of the fencing out, so I just use electric fencing, like the reel and the little pegs, and just buy the energizers. Because we're milking once a day, I've got more time to do that stuff, and I enjoy doing that stuff because I'm in the paddock all the time. So I don't have spreadsheets or anything like that. Like I do it all like just by looking at it and observing. And I think the biggest thing with farming I've learnt is you've got to observe and look. There's no point, like you can get it out of books and that sort of thing and go on to talks and that sort of thing, like to a degree. But until you've got to get on your hands and knees and have a good look at it, have a crack at it. Like I'll be doing stuff with my son Billy and he'll go, oh, here we go. So I get out of the buggy and I'm on my hands and knees. He goes, I've got to get a footy training. Hurry up. What are you looking at? You looked at that yesterday. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a big thing, the observation and that sort of thing. But I think that day, the reason they didn't go down there because we forgot to open the wire to let them go. With farming, I don't want to sugarcoat it. Like I ask, why the hell do I do it sometimes? Like a couple of weeks ago, it was like 4:30 in the morning. I was down the farm feeding the pigs in the pouring rain, and I took the bag in to feed the pigs, trying to find a spot to put the grain in that, and the bastards knocked me over. So I come crawling out of there like I was shitting myself. I thought I was going to get eaten. Do you know what I mean? And you're like, what? I'm not doing this anymore. You know what I mean? And then you go up and have breakfast and have a couple of chops and go, well, they're good. I'm going back. So there is all that's not. You know what I mean? Like we have our problems. We have our family problems and our problems with the kids arguing or whatever. And you know, the parents and all. Look, we generally have heaps of problems, and I do like make bad decisions all the time. Like I said to someone before, like when I make a bad decision, that's just bad luck. You know, when I make a good decision, that's good management. So, yeah, that's it.
Chris, can you just, to that photograph there, can you just talk about the multi-species in that thing? Because I find them, I stood in that one of your paddocks like that a few weeks ago, and it was a dream, just smelling in and being in all those grasses and different species, and it was just incredible. So would you just talk about what's in there and what happened there?
Yeah, so it's like I would have used chook feed as a basis of the mix. I thought it's called wild bird seed mix or something like that. It's got sunflowers and bit of sorghum and things like that in it, and barley and wheat. And so I use that to get the biocast into the soil. And then I'll put your other like expensive seeds like lab, cowpeas. I think I had a couple of bags of sorghum seed, like a faster growing one, what I call a forage sorghum, that was bare. I put that in there as well. Buckwheat, it comes up really fast, so you couldn't see it in that. And the other thing about it is the way we plant it. Like we're not digging the soil up planting that. It's just direct drill, like we just got that little drill machine I said before with Billy was on the back of it. So we might cut that paddock, it might be a bit thistly and it might have a bit of Parramatta grass in it, or a bit of cooch, or a lot of Soteria or Rhodes grass or something like that. Like instead of seeing that as, oh, that's a terrible grass, the cows aren't going to milk on it, you know what I mean? Because they don't milk real good on that sort of stuff. We can cut that and use that as our mulch. And then, you know, we get some nice green grass come up in it. And what I like to do is I like to plant into growing grass, because the roots are white. If you look under the soil, when the grass starts growing again, the roots are really white. And I'm like, well, that must mean there's activity. So I'm putting the seeds into like a biologically active soil with the worm cast on them as well from Lee. And sometimes it just sits there and doesn't do much, but once it gets up and it starts getting above that Rhodes grass and Kaikui and cooch, it basically starts eating those grasses. That's what I say, it's like a big green monster. It just comes over and just smashes it and uses those grasses underneath that are normally dominant in summer to grow like that. But I didn't put compost on that. I didn't put any rock phosphate on that or lime or anything. I used to use all that stuff. I don't use that anymore. I just use a bit of basalt dust in my compost sometimes. It's like cheap as chips. And you look at it, it's got like potassium in it and magnesium and calcium and silica, all this different stuff. Because I've noticed whenever we've concreted something or we put a tank in, whenever we used it, the grass is heaps greener around it. Like, it's just an observation thing. I don't need to go to bloody uni to learn that. Do you know what I mean? And I thought, well, if it grows there, why is it not going to grow down there? It's going to grow down there, yeah? So that's all it might have had on it. We cut that paddock. That's the second crop. So we cut it. I forgot to say that. Someone asked me about that. We actually cut silage off it first, and then we drilled the same type of plants back in. Yeah, so we cut it for silage because I had other grasses, other paddocks that needed grazing. I was having an all right season. But I'll bag that and see how it goes. Because we hadn't worked the paddock up, or obviously we're not allowed to spray it, the underneath's clean. So when you're baling it and making silage, you're not picking all the dirt up. You know, like if you grow people like plough paddocks to grow crops, it's really hard to make silage out of because they get full of soil that gets picked up when you're raking and all that sort of stuff. So it's really clean. And then we drilled straight back in it. But we might have, answering your question, we probably would have put more lab in it this time. So the first time would have been more cowpea as our main legume in there, and then the next time it's lab. So lab will grow at home. It's growing now. It's May. It's nearly June. And so what I'm trying to I'm thinking to myself, well, ryegrass is everyone around here is growing ryegrass and oats. You see it, like all the dairy farmers and beef producers and that. So from the end of February through to April, we're trying to kill all the other grasses so we can grow ryegrass. And ryegrass really doesn't grow that well in winter anyway because it's cold. It grows good in like September, October and into November. So we're spending 6 to 7 months of the year trying to grow something that only grows for 2 months. It doesn't make sense. And we're spending a heap of money doing it. Like well, I'm not, but we're pouring urea on it in winter trying to get the stuff to grow, and it doesn't really want to grow in winter. And so that's like leaching out and all that sort of stuff. It's like the dollar in, dollar out thing. Well, you're getting 80 cents or whatever it is for your milk, right? And people are getting a litre of milk and you're putting a kilo of urea on that's, I don't know what it costs now, $1,000, something like that. It costs more than the product you're selling. There'd be more nutrition. You'd be better off putting that litre of milk back on your paddock than the urea, I think. I know it's a long way of getting around it, but those paddocks don't look like they need nitrogen, eh? And that's why I do organic farming and regenerative farming, is because it's bloody cool to go down into a paddock and look at it and say, I didn't put any chemicals on that. Look at the way it's growing. Beauty, you know what I mean? It's so good. It makes me excited.